Okay. Well, I've always been interested in working with children since my first job working in a nursery when I was still at school myself. So when I left school, I trained to be a primary school teacher, which is a job that I did for 15 years. But things recently have become so busy with family life. I'm a mum of 3 of my own and 2 stepchildren. So teaching just doesn't work for me anymore. So my sister introduced me to tutoring. She also works for Oxbridge. And I've been doing this for just over a year now. Okay, the thing I enjoy most about being a tutor is probably the flexibility it brings to family life. It's just ideal for me because I feel like I'm still keeping a hand in with teaching, but I can dictate my own hours and working pattern to fit in with the children and all their activities. It's also great to be able to help students become involved in a sector that I've spent so long working in myself. I feel like I'm giving back, really.
No, that's really good, and I can tell that you know, when you've had that experience, when they have those questions about the vocational part of the job and what will be involved, you'll be readily prepared to help them with things like, you know, the going into employment. So yeah, I can imagine that's really helpful.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it's not just the theory. I can help them with you know, the real nitty-gritty of it as well, really. The thing I find most rewarding is that many of the students haven't been in education for a while, and they can find getting back into the swing of it quite difficult at the start. So I'll quite often get a few emails saying, oh, this is too difficult, I don't understand this, I can't do this. And it's the point that things seem to turn, and you just see the learner growing confidence over the course, makes all those initial panic emails at the start worthwhile. Also sharing in their joy when they get positive feedback from observations or successful interviews, because, you know, I remember how nerve-wracking that can be when, you know, Ofsted are at the door observing you. So when they have their first mentor observation and they feel like they've done really well, that's just a really nice feeling to share with them. The advice I'd give to someone who's thinking of enrolling on a teaching assistant course is to, first of all, find a setting who are willing to give you the support that they need. As this is obviously a distance learning course, we don't get to see our students face to face, so it's important that they find a mentor who's willing to put in the time and effort with them to support them with the practical element of the course. Also, if anyone, you know, hasn't been in childcare or education, I'd advise, if they're considering a change of career direction, to train to be a teaching assistant, to do their research, speak to teaching assistants, find out what the role really involves, get some experience in the school environment first to find out what it'll be like. The role has moved on massively since the days where the teaching assistant was there to wash up the paint pots at the end of the day. There's far more involved in the job now. Well, as well as the comprehensive course notes, which are obviously as standard from Oxbridge, students receive a dedicated tutor whom they can contact for support whenever they need. We're expected to respond to emails within 48 hours, but generally myself and you know, the other tutors who are in the education department, I know we're much quicker than that, and keen to lend a hand where we can. For some students, that's guidance on every activity. For others, they like to be left alone, and it might just be the occasional unit that they need support with.
That tailor-made support sounds phenomenal. It's a great thing for people who are learning remotely.
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you kind of sat there with your course notes, particularly if you haven't been in education for a long time, and just thinking, oh, what do I do with this? And then quite often they'll just say, oh yeah, it's so obvious now you've explained it.
Yeah.
It's just that little, you know, getting them into the swing of it. The main benefits of online study for me are being able to fit it in around everything else that we've got going on in our lives. the very nature of Oxbridge means that we're obviously set up for working remotely, so there doesn't need to be any interruptions to learning when COVID restrictions are, put and changed and imposed again. It can all just be seamless and carry on with the learning. I found it really difficult to decide when I was looking at this what a typical day in the life of a teaching assistant looks like, because quite often no 2 days are the same. It could be lesson prep, it could be doing displays, making resources, teaching a group of children, teaching a whole class of children, working one-to-one with a child, completing assessments. Like teaching, it's really a jack of all trades kind of job. It's a really social profession, especially if you're working alongside a class teacher with younger children in a school. I think it's wonderful to be part of a team making a difference to children and young people's lives, and I'd say that's perhaps what I miss most from working in a school. You can't replicate that from behind a laptop. Children, obviously, in their very nature, they're unpredictable, and you never know what they're going to throw at you, metaphorically, although sometimes literally. It's certainly never a boring job. Okay, once you've qualified as a teaching assistant, what you do next is completely down to what the learner wants to do. They may have had some experience in a setting where they've perhaps worked with a child with a special educational need or disability, and they've thought, I'd like to go down that route and become a specialist TA offering support for pupils with specific needs. They may decide they want to take on more responsibility in the setting and work for HLTA status, which is the higher level teaching assistant status. So if they wanted to do something like that, they need a setting support, because that's something that they work towards with a school. But a course that would support them in that would be to take the level 4 advanced practitioner course. And then quite often, part of our course and our last assignment, the students do have to say what they want to do next, what their 5-year plan is, 10-year plan is, and many of them do say they want to just use this as a starting block for training to be a teacher.
It's amazing. And I can see there's a lot of different roles. There's so many, different schools, settings you can go into.
Yeah, absolutely. From, nurseries, early years settings, primary schools, specialist schools, particularly now with all academies, you don't necessarily have to be following the maintained schools curriculum. There's so many things on offer now for somebody wanting to be a teaching assistant. I'd just perhaps reiterate what I said earlier, that do your research about your chosen course, particularly when it's a vocational course like being a teaching assistant, because it could be a big change to what you're used to. The ladies in the office are great. Have a chat with the team in the office, and they'll be able to guide you on what's right for you. Do it. Gosh, you put me on the spot now. Advice to my younger self, career-wise, career path-wise, or...
Yeah.
I think I'd still do the same thing. Teaching, even in the 15 years I did it, completely changed as a job, and as everything else, it just became more and more paperwork. But I don't think I would. I still think I would have trained to be a teacher. I wouldn't have given it up any earlier. I never say never. Once the children are a little bit more growing up, I may go back into it, but at this time, this just really suits me, and like I've said, I feel like I'm keeping my hand in with it. So yeah, my advice to my younger self is do what you did.
That's amazing. No, that's good to hear, and it's a very rewarding.
It was the right choice, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a rewarding career to help you, what we call like tiny people, turn into big people. And it's like you can see that the passion that you have for your job, and now you're helping other people become teachers and teaching assistants themselves. So it's still part of that whole rewarding fulfillment, job fulfillment.
It's inspirational, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great job. It really is a great career. I'd recommend it to anyone. But just be aware that you'll never have an evening term time. Be marking into the small hours of the morning.